Clever way to treat the local wildlife. See if I ever go digging around in the trash in that neighborhood again. Oh, hey there, friend. How have you been? You been doing okay for yourself lately? That's good to hear. It's been a while since we've run into each other. But I spare a moment every so often to think about you and wonder how you're doing. Me? Oh, life's been one adventure after another. Stray dogs, a wee bit of dumpster diving, getting chased out of a garbage can by an old man with a rake just lately. Generally doing anomalous possum things. And, though I'm not exactly proud to say it, locked away. Yep, the old lockup. Arrested and incarcerated. Me. A fairly shifty but honest-looking oversized possum, run afoul of the law, and put behind bars. Well, I'll tell you how it all came about. But you'll want to be sitting down for it, as it takes a bit of time to fully explain. Let me see. Where are we? Oh, yes. There is a little city park maybe a block from here. Let's head over that way. Shouldn't take but a minute or two to get there. It's a quiet little place. Lots of shade trees in the summertime, and usually a good place to lie up for the night when I'm over this way. There's an old silver maple in one corner of the park that's really old and shot through with rotten holes and hollow spots. Come nighttime, it's like a cheap motel for roving city critters. Yeah, I like the place. It's surrounded by greenery just enough to feel like a natural place. A bit secluded from the hustle and bustle of city life, but still enough of an obvious artifact, and near enough to a couple of mom and pop stores I visit, to make the city-dwelling possum heart feel at ease. Here's the place. Just up on the right. You can see there's a little vine trellis arching over the entryway. Nice little touch, that. Cozy little place, isn't it? Like I said, feels secluded, but not too far from all the comforts of civilization. Okay, friend. Make yourself comfortable on that bench there, and I shall stand before you and regale you with the story of how I got arrested and did my time in jail. When last we left our oversized anomalous possum hero... Too dramatic? I'll try and tone it down a bit then. Okay. So this all started about 3 days ago. Yeah, 3 days ago. I'll get to that. You just sit back and enjoy the story. So, 3 days ago, I was nosing around on the other side of town, in a neighborhood I've passed through a lot, but never really paused to investigate closely. It's a little bit too suburban feeling for my tastes. I don't like the way the houses look so much alike, and the people all have this shrill, loud way of talking. It makes me uncomfortable. Well, I'm making my way through this wonderful, inviting neighborhood, around about dusk or so, and I just happen across a paper bag from some restaurant or other. Those are usually worth investigating, leftover fries and the like. This one was a gift from the gods. About half full of chicken nuggets, plus dipping sauce. Pretty lucky find, right? Chicken nuggets aren't the greatest thing in the world, but as far as fast food goes, they're pretty high on the list. So, I've got this bag of nuggets, and I'm looking around for some place to hunker down for a bit and chow down. And there it is. The perfect spot. Not 10 feet away, somebody has parked an absolutely gigantic truck. Yeah, one of the huge ones that no one with any self-respect actually needs. Great big upright exhaust pipes, lift kit, oversized tires, crash grille, roof-mounted light rack, everything but a patriotic cowboy hat and a God Bless Henry Ford bumper sticker. Yeah, It's what my clerk friend at sketchy late-night convenience store might call a hillbilly battle wagon. Anyway, this thing is enormous, and perfect for hanging out under. So I make my way over to this vehicular colossus, bag of nuggets in hand, and I'm just about to sit down and start snacking, when what begins to assault my sensitive possum ears but the shrill voice of one of the local Karens. Yeah, a Karen. Blonde dye job, weird Karen issue haircut, designer everything. Sounds overly entitled and probably wants to speak to your manager. And she's yelling. At me. Now, a regular, everyday, non-anomalous possum would have hauled ass out of there, scurried across the street and down the nearest storm drain. But I'm oversized and unusual, possessed of much greater braining power than your ordinary trash cat, and I don't haul ass or scurry nearly as fast on account of being as large and hefty as I am. Plus, I'm more than a little distracted by the flow of language being directed at my person by this shrilling harridan. So I'm just sitting there, a chicken nugget in one hand, staring at this Karen while she gets closer and closer, and louder and louder. And gradually I start losing track of the actual words she's saying, and all I can make out is this vindictive sense of outrage that I, a mere animal, should have the temerity to plunk my furry ass down under her vehicle, or even to be in the same neighborhood. There was certainly a lot more to it. She seemed to have quite the word hoard, did Karen. But she just kept yelling and screaming at me, and I am really not wired for that sort of stress. And so, after enduring just a bit more of her sonic attack on me, I fainted. Yes, fainted. In true anomalous possum fashion. I dropped my chicken nugget, stood up as tall as I could, put a hand to my forehead, let out a dramatic possum sigh, and fell over sideways onto the pavement. No, it wasn't an act. Well, maybe a bit. I really did pass out, though. You know that whole playing possum thing that my species is supposed to do? It's not an act. We're just not genetically wired to deal with sudden stress as well as other creatures. So we sometimes just have to shut down and reset. Have you tried turning it off and back on again? Yeah, it's a bit like that. So yeah, I freaked out and fainted. Right underneath Karen's entitlement truck. Out like a light. The next thing I know, there's a police car and a truck from animal control parked nearby. Lights a-flashing. And people in uniforms all around me. And somebody's got one of those rope-on-a-stick critter grabber things. And they slipped the noose on me and dragged my groggy carcass out from under the truck. Oh, it was humiliating. One of them even held me up and posed for a photograph with me while another person held the rope stick thing. I think they did it because I'm so big. One of them even called me fat. Which isn't strictly true. I'm just large-framed. I wanted to tell them what I thought of them, and especially what I thought about Karen, but thought better of it. Didn't want to cause a big fuss right there in public, you know? Not the sort of people who really need to discover an oversized talking possum in the neighborhood. So I just played stupid while they took pictures of me, and weighed me with a little spring scale thing they attached to the end of the critter grabber. No, I am not going to tell you how much I weigh. And then they stuck me in one of the cages in the back of the animal control truck. Yep, they locked me up. Animal jail. Me, Red Leicester, smooth-talking, sophisticated possum about town, behind bars. Locked away. I was an inmate, incarcerated for a crime I never committed. Friend, I tell you, doing time changes a fellow. For how long? Oh, maybe about 45 minutes all told. But it seemed like a lot longer than that to me. For one thing, I was still recovering from my fainting spell, I also remember being super pissed about losing that bag of chicken nuggets. Well, anyway, eventually Karen stopped freaking out and stomped back inside, probably to call somebody's manager. And the police left, and the lady from Animal Control drove us outside the city to some woodsy place I've never been to. And there we stopped. She opened up the back of the truck, got that noose on a stick thing back on me somehow. And then, to add insult to injury, she strapped a radio tracking collar onto me. Yeah, that's like somebody under house arrest getting a tracker strapped to their ankle. Except the animal collars aren't as tough to get off, I think, which is why you don't see me wearing the thing now. Well, I had to keep it on for a bit, to keep up appearances while the lady got me out of the truck and shooed me into the woods. I scampered for a bit and then sat down for a breather, and she drove off in her truck. As soon as she got out of earshot, I started giving her what for, mostly out of irritation than actually hoping she'd hear me. I felt like that one guy... Oh, what the hell is the name of that book? Jack London. The Road, I think it is. This hobo gets run out of some tiny little podunk town by the sheriff. I felt like that. Getting arrested for vagrancy or something like it. Locked up, and then kicked out of town. And then I took off the collar. Just an industrial-grade Velcro rig, really. Stuffed it into one of my pockets, and started on the long, weary trek back into town. Oh, I was back by morning. Turns out the place I got dumped was just a couple of miles away from the edge of town, as the honest four-legged critters make it. But there aren't any roads that go straight there, and I had to do a lot of cross-country trekking. On an empty stomach, too. I'd really been banking on those chicken nuggets. Though I did come across a grove of persimmon trees at one point, and those made for quite the tasty snack. Anyway, I was back by morning, and spent most of the day sleeping the sleep of the unjustly persecuted while holed up in somebody's improperly sealed garage. But that night, friend, oh, did I get my revenge. I made my way right back to that neighborhood, using my considerable skills of stealth and under cover of darkness. Made my way right back to that neighborhood, right back to the very same house, and lo and behold, there's that same hillbilly battle wagon parked in the same exact spot. And right underneath it, my freaking bag of chicken nuggets. Right where I'd dropped it. You bet I did. Ran across the street and under the truck, nobody around at all. I picked up the bag, checked the contents. Everything's still there, and I even found the nugget I dropped when I fainted. And then, my master stroke of genius. Remember how I told you about taking off that radio tracking collar and stuffing it into one of my Anomalous Possum pockets? Well, I took that collar out, and I strapped it to the underside of Karen's rolling fortress, in a moderately inconvenient spot underneath the driver's side area. And then I took my nuggets down the nearest storm drain and had myself a feast. A day or two old and cold is nowhere near as good as hot and fresh, but a possum's got to make do with what he can find. And speaking of finding things, I found a bunch of loose change on the ground while trash-catting about last night. How about we stroll over to that little mom-and-pop grocery down the street? We can go up to the back entrance of the place. Yeah, both the old folks that run the place know about me and my odd nature, and I like to support the business. So every now and again I go by the place and buy a little something from them. Come on, friend. I'll treat us both to some wonderful canned iced coffees.